So good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for joining and welcome to this Data Europa Academy webinar that is dedicated to the Open Data Maturity Report 2023. My name is Flora Copellu and I work on data.europa.eu, which is the official portal for European data. The reason that we are here is actually to discuss on the 9th Open Data Maturity Report that was published by data.europa.eu back in December 2023. For those who are not familiar, the assessment is measuring the level of maturity of countries across Europe, highlighting their progress in promoting open data. The report aims to inspire open data availability and reuse, as well as track progress on how countries move towards open data, comparing their performance across years. So, as you will see in this webinar, we will present insights from the Open Data Maturity Report 2023. Then we will have representatives from two countries that had a high growth during 2023, and they will discuss their national best practices, lessons learned, and plans moving forward. And lastly, through a Q&A, we will answer to any questions you might have for our speakers. So, before we move to today's agenda, and for those that are familiar with the Data Europa Academy webinars, this webinar, as every other Data Europa Academy webinar, will be recorded. And both the recording and presentations will be available on Data Europa Academy, and they will be shared with you in the upcoming days. So no worries if you have missed something, we will share the content and the recording with you. Additionally, please take 3 minutes after the webinar to complete our survey. It's so important for us. Your feedback is important to further enhance our content, tailor-made it to your needs. So I will remind you also at the end of the session to take some time to provide us with your feedback. And also throughout the session, feel free to use the chat for any questions you might have for the speakers related to their presentations. And then we will ensure that we will answer them during the Q&A session. So don't worry about it, just start using the chat. Then, as I mentioned, I'm very lucky, I'm not alone today, and I will not be the one introducing you to all these insights. I have the chance to have experts with a diverse background in the field of open data who will share their experiences with us. Firstly, we have Martin Page. Martin is an Open Data Maturity Study Lead at Capgemini Invent and one of the main contributors on data.europa.eu behind the Open Data Maturity Report 2023. Welcome, Martin. Then we have Sanya Rizanovic, a project coordinator in UNDP, where she coordinates open data related projects. She graduated from the Faculty of Political Sciences in Belgrade and has been active in public administration reform since 2013. Since 2017, she has worked on introducing open data in Serbia and putting Serbia on the global open data map. Welcome, Sanya. Then we have Miroslav Liska. Miroslav works as a General State Advisor for Open Data and Interoperability. He's the co-author of excuse me if I don't pronounce it correctly, Miroslav, znalosti.gov.sk, a central government knowledge graph, and the main technical lead of the new open data portal for data.slovensko.sk. Last but not least, we have Lukas Jankovic. Lukas is a data analyst who previously worked for NGO Alvaria on several projects, including open data in regions. He currently works for the Ministry of Investments, Regional Development and Informatization of the Slovak Republic on open data, impact, quality and policy implementation. So a big thanks to all of you for being here today and provided us with your valuable input. And before I give the floor to the next speaker, I will introduce you to our agenda. As you have already seen, we have begun with a brief introduction. Following this, Martin will have 15 minutes to provide us insights into the Open Data Maturity Assessment results and insights from 2023. Then we will give the floor to Sanja, that will share best practices coming from Serbia. And following that, Lucas and Miroslav will divide their time to give us more information about the best practices coming from Slovakia. Finally, as mentioned before, we will conclude the webinar with a Q&A session that will be led by Martin, where we will address any questions you may have for today's speakers. And before giving the floor to Martin, a reminder for those that joined us later, we will indeed share this recording and presentation with you in the upcoming days. And without further ado, the floor is yours, Martin.
Yes, thank you so much, Flora, and welcome again to everyone online. Thank you for joining. I'm excited to be here to present to you some highlights from the 2023 Open Data Maturity Assessment. As Flora said, I'm Dr. Martin Page, and I was the lead study researcher for the ODM 2023. And ODM is one of the many ways in which data.europa EU supports the EU's goals around open data. As you may know, ODM is an annual assessment that measures the progress of European countries in making public sector information available and stimulating its reuse in line with the Open Data Directive. And the report captures practices across European countries as a way of supporting the development and sharing of best practices. And this is made possible because representatives in the various European countries elect to complete a self-assessment that summarizes all their various activities, initiatives, and statistics that document their state of play. And in 2023, 35 countries participated in ODM, both the EU 27, as well as several EFTA and candidate countries. We use these survey responses to then analyze open data maturity, which is then conceptualized across 4 dimensions. In brief, the policy dimension looks at the level of development of national and local policies that promote open data. Secondly, the impact dimension is about the initiatives to monitor reuse and impact. Thirdly, the portal dimension looks at the data made available through national portals, as well as the features of the portals. And fourthly, the quality dimension investigates the quality of metadata made available on these national portals. So what I would like to do now is to look at the highlights of each of these 4 dimensions that were the results of the 2023 report. Taking policy first, the policy dimension is designed to encourage the practical implementation of policy measures. Therefore, it investigates aspects like the governance structures, operating models, and processes and activities in place, put in place by the countries to realize the ambitions that they set in their national policies and strategies. In 2023, the policy dimension remains the most mature, and it has actually been the leading dimension since ODM was established in 2015. This means that EU countries have transposed the Open Data Directive into national law, and they are implementing it with concrete measures. So overall, the take-home from the 2023 report is that the policy framework that has been established is now being further supported and reinforced with concrete governance structures and with measures put in place to realize the policies. If we then go to the second dimension of impact, this dimension is designed to encourage open data teams to implement mechanisms that monitor open data reuse in the country, as well as to put in efforts to better understand and cater to the needs of the reusers of the open data. What we saw in 2023 is that this dimension saw a really large increase, meaning that countries are putting additional efforts into their processes and activities to document the reuse of open data. And this translates into an improved ability to monitor open data reuse. And ultimately, there's now a greater awareness of reuse case examples that put open data into practice. However, as in other fields of endeavor, collecting data to quantify and systematically describe impact remains a challenge. If we then go to the third dimension of the portal dimension is designed to encourage national portals to provide users with features and functionalities that meet their needs and offer a good user experience, and that have the knock-on effect of encouraging, again, the uptake and reuse of open data. The portal dimension also remains one of the most mature dimensions. Basically, the essential functionality to put open data in the hands of reusers is in place. And in 2023, we are seeing that more data is being made available openly by more data providers, government agencies in various countries. We also find that countries are using their portals to engage the community and build a community of open data reusers. However, we also found that the portal features in general are not becoming more sophisticated. Nonetheless, there were several examples of some new and improved portals in some countries. Then if we take the fourth and last dimension of quality, the quality dimension is designed to encourage national portals to publish data sets with high metadata quality, and high quality data sets are, again, appealing to reusers and then also feed into encouraging open data reuse and ultimately realize that impact of open data. And the finding of the 2023 ODM report is that the quality dimension is kind of the next frontier of open data maturity. What I mean by that is that the policies are in place to support open data initiatives. The portals are there to provide access to open data. And now there's an increase in efforts being dedicated to ensuring that the data is easy to use and that the data itself meets the needs of the reusers. So for example, having licensing information in the metadata, having the right descriptions in the metadata. Metadata describes the underlying data set, and this all makes the data more easily taken up by potential reusers. So there was also a significant improvement on this dimension. If we then also touch on a very topical aspect is the high value data sets. The implementing regulation was published and it will become applicable this year in June. In the 2023 ODM report, we investigated the 6 categories of high value data sets, as well as the areas of technical and legal requirements that the legislation sets out. In terms of the categories, what we found is that the geospatial and also the statistics high-value data sets are the most advanced categories. This makes sense in terms of geospatial data sets. The INSPIRE directive from a few years ago set the groundwork for geospatial data. And if we add an interpretation to why statistics are very advanced, it's because national statistics offices are really established institutions. In terms of the requirements, we see the most advancement in terms of identifying which data sets are in the scope of high-value data sets. Where countries are less advanced is in the technical areas, such as ensuring that these categories of data are in machine-readable formats, in standardized structures, and so on. I then also take this moment to again congratulate France, Poland, and Ukraine for coming as the top 3 most mature countries in the 2023 report. It was a tight field, and many countries made year-on-year progress, and there's a high maturity level in general. It's also important to mention the countries that improved the most, and across all countries or categories in the EU, in EFTA, and in the candidates. We saw improvements, and 2 of those countries are here today, Slovakia and Serbia, to explain more about behind-the-scenes picture of their best practices. And the purpose of this clustering is to help countries constructively compare with other countries, to discover best practices from their peers and also from countries that have a higher maturity. But then briefly give a preview of what's upcoming in this year. The ODM methodology is undergoing one of its standard updates. We also look updating the questionnaire format to make it easier for member states to participate. There's an ongoing design project to enhance the website, make the report interactive and accessible to a broader audience. This webinar will be followed by an Open Data Best Practices report. And it's a big year for ODM because it's also the 10th anniversary in 2024. In conclusion, I encourage you to go to data.europa.eu, download the ODM report. There's also supporting materials such as a fact sheet for each country. The raw data is available in the form of the raw questionnaires from each country, as well as an overview of the processed indicator scores. So go to data.europa.eu and find more there. And with that, I conclude my presentation and hand back to Flora. I will see you again later for the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you for this high-level presentation. We already have received quite a few questions, and we will further discuss them, as mentioned, during the Q&A session. And also congrats on the report, and also congrats to all the Data Europa team behind the 2023 ODM report, because it's a teamwork. And now, without further ado, we will move on to get more information about these best practices that were mentioned. Sanja from Serbia will give us more information on the best practices and some insights from her experience. So Sanja, thank you once again for joining us in the webinar, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to say good morning to everyone and to thank the organizers for inviting us to share the best practices. And thank you all for attending this webinar. I hope it will be useful for you. And of course, I'm open for any questions because there is a limited time for presentation, but you may ask anything you like, and I will answer that in the Q&A session. So I wanted to give you a little bit of the background story because I presume that most of you are not so familiar with the open data ecosystem in Serbia and what is actually our role as UNDP. In Serbia, we are actually facing an, I can say, acceleration in digital transformation process. And this process has been good for us because it has put open data high on the public agenda and high on the political agenda. And we as UNDP actually support government in Serbia to establish and improve open data ecosystem. So I have to say that most of the credit actually goes to the Office for IT and e-Government, but we as UNDP provide expert and management support to their team. So we are working together in this. When it comes to open data, we have started in 2015 with the Open Data Readiness Assessment, which we have implemented with the World Bank. And that actually gave us a positive input that we are ready to go with this initiative. And with a little bit of support with the donor community and, of course, willingness of the government, we started with this initiative. And first, we wanted to build strong community, and of course the other building blocks of the open data ecosystem, like legislation framework, etc. But the open data community has been really important for us for the very beginning. We explored a lot, piloted a lot, learned a lot from the countries which have done it before us, because if you start late, and I can say that that has actually been late, then you have the opportunity to learn from the mistakes of other countries which already have done it for the couple of years. We wanted to position open data as fuel for data-driven decision-making, and to improve digital government services, and add a little bit of innovation in that process. And I can say that the COVID-19 process has actually been helpful in this case, because it showed the power of data, and it showed that it is really important that digital services are available to anyone in every corner of the country, once the people are locked and cannot go physically to do what needs to be done. So in this case, digital and online services have been really helpful, and data has found its important place. So in here you can see our open data portal, and if you scan this QR code, you can visit it. I'm not going to spend much time on this, but I just wanted to say that we actually work to improve our portal annually. So we are always looking what needs to be done, some kind of small improvements. Sometimes they're not so visible to users, but we are constantly improving it. We work with the French open data team, because we are using the UData platform, which is developed by the French ETA Lab. And we are part of small, I can say small club, because not so many countries are using UData. But we are satisfied with this platform, and we are constantly working to improve it, and of course following the ODM recommendations on some features which can be added still. So feel free to scan and explore on your own this portal, and of course it is connected to the European data portal. In here, I just wanted to show you a little bit what are the building blocks of, I can say, our open data ecosystem. I will talk later a little bit about Open Data Working Group, Open Data Week, and the Citizen Science. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of flavor of other interesting parts of some of the activities and results which we have achieved over the year. So as I said, we wanted to learn in the beginning, and of course we are still learning. So we established a good partnership with the Open Data Institute, which is based in London, because Great Britain is actually really advanced in this field. And of course, we cooperated with other countries. Ukraine has, for example, been interesting for us concerning the data on public procurement. So there are some of the countries which are really, really interesting, and especially in some data sets which they have opened and have a lot of use cases and a lot of impact. So I think that's really important to actually look at countries which can be helpful. We wanted to work a lot with the community. So not only organize hackathons, datatons, meetups, which are kind of traditional, I can say, but we have established data innovation challenges, which are somewhat similar to EU datatons, which I presume most of you are familiar with. And those challenges provided us the opportunity, and the public administration an opportunity to engage with the tech sector, with startups in, I can say, for them, non-traditional way, because it's usually that is done through public procurement, and private companies appear as vendors, which provide a finished solution. But in this case, they had the opportunity to cooperate in a more informal setting, and we would actually provide some kind of problem issue which can be solved with open data, but we didn't say what is the solution. So we didn't order like a website or visualization or dashboard. We just say, try to solve this problem, like a public social problem, with data. So that provided a community so interested applicants wide field to play in and to explore, and to give us something which we might not be aware of as a solution. And I think that process has been really interesting for the public administration, and that showed them the power of data, and that actually community is interested to use open data, that the community has the knowledge to use public data. And we also wanted to for public servants to have the opportunity to learn. So we have set up several courses through the National Academy for Public Administration. And in the end, of course, we've done some promotion and media and PR, because it's always important to be transparent and to keep everybody included and informed about what is happening. So a little bit more in details on the Open Data Working Group, Open Data Week, and Citizen Science. When it comes to the Open Data Working Group, I can say that this has been a really, really important platform from the very beginning, because we used it not only to bring legislation, policy framework, but also as a platform for communication and inclusion of other stakeholders. This group has been set up by the government decision, but it's important to note that from the very beginning, we had members from the NGO sector, media, tech, academia, private sector. So every stakeholder which was interested in this field could be included in the work of the Open Data Working Group. We would meet once per quarter, and we would have one annual workshop and planning. We use this as a way to group, to gather all open data enthusiasts, because in the very beginning they kind of felt not alone, but isolated, because that was something new. It was usually an add-on to their already full day of tasks, and they felt like they need support from other people in other institutions and in other sectors of society working towards the same goal. We would make plans for open data release, open data reuse with input from the users, and that was really, really inspiring and great. And these meetings were open to the public, so we wanted to keep that spirit of openness. And once the mandate has finished, we also wanted to keep these meetings, so we turned those into meetups, less informal setting, which also added a little bit of new flavor to this group, because now we were in more informal kind of setup, usually in some hubs, where actually open data users felt more freedom, and it's their territory, and public servants are coming to their territory. So now we have a new setup, but it was really, really great for both of these groups to have the opportunity to mingle and explore and exchange experiences. We had 65 members, and we actually intend to reestablish the Open Data Working Group again with the decision of the government. When it comes to the Open Data Working Group, Open Data Week, that is something which I'm really proud of, because we started off with marking the Open Data Day, International Open Data Day, and we wanted to offer more. We saw that people are interested to organize events by themselves. They have good ideas. So we wanted to make one program which will be full of free, interesting open data related events. So we organized public calls and had a lot of applications from different stakeholders in the open data community, and we funded their ideas in order to for them to be able to organize events on the local level. So our main idea was to decentralize the initiative, so move it from Belgrade to other cities, to other municipalities, because we felt that we, as not like me personally, but we as an open data team, we are sitting in Belgrade, and we are not really best positioned to know what people, I don't know, students or persons with disabilities in some small cities really need, and how can open data help them to achieve that. So we felt like those people are our voices, and they know what is best to be done. We would just be there to support the event. If they want us to talk, we will speak. but we want that to be their own events. And we, of course, would have one event in Belgrade, but my personal favorites are all those small events, like panel discussions, meetups, hackathons, datatons, workshops, whatever was the idea. If it's good, we would fund it. And that was a great opportunity for everybody to participate and to cooperate with us and to actually disperse this initiative across Serbia. And finally, the citizen science, I think it's really great and fun and engaging. Unfortunately, we only had one project which is citizen science based, but I think it's something which we can explore in the future more. It was focused on air quality, which I think is the question which is present in every corner of the earth, unfortunately. But we really have problem with that in Belgrade and in other bigger cities in Serbia. And we thought that that's a good opportunity to engage with citizens because once the Serbian Environmental Protection Agency released real-time data on air quality, it gained a lot of traction in public. It was a big hit, and a lot of applications started to use it. And we had interested groups in NGO sector, in private sector, which wanted to use this data. So they approached us with the idea to create a network of citizens which measure the air quality. You probably know some of these networks already present in Europe, but that network didn't exist in Serbia. So we connected two NGOs, one which works with green advocacy and policy, and one which works on tech, and one company which is working with IoT. And they actually had a project to empower citizens to collect data with small DIY devices with open code, which they would put on their balconies and collect data on air quality. We wanted also to have Environmental Protection Agency on board with this because we didn't want them to feel like these data sets are in any kind of, let's say, competition with the official data, because that's really was not the point. Because their measuring stations are professional, expensive, but the point of this is to have additional data, to have the feeling of citizens like they contribute to something which is really important for the society, to have data on a local neighborhood level, because if you don't have a station close to you, then you don't really know how is the air quality. So we wanted to have this like an add-on to the official data. And now most of the apps are actually adding these data sets of this unofficial citizens data to the applications. And if you open the app, you can see official data, citizen science data, and it's really great because it gives you a better picture of the air quality in the city. There is, I think, now around 200 these devices, but this group is actually, they continued the activity, so it's a sustainable activity, and they are still doing it. So it's really nice to see this. And I will not go into details on these reuse cases, but just wanted to show you what are some of the most interesting reuse cases which we have funded over the time. Of course, the environment has been always interesting, and mobility for us, especially Google Transit, which is something which we didn't have in Belgrade, while most of the big cities have it. It really was good for mobility, for public transport in Belgrade. Health, good governance. We always have some new use cases which we are actually unable to trace. But we want to have more of this in the future, and for that, of course, there needs to be new data sets, high quality data sets. So that's something which we need to work on more. And finally, before I close, I wanted to present you a little bit the concept of Open Data Hub, because that is something which we created at the very end, but that is the roof of our house. It is the crown jewel, as I like to call it, because the hub was actually created with the idea to gather all pieces, all activities which we are implementing, and put it under on one address for people to be able to get familiar with open data, who is working this in our country, what is being done, what is available, so resources, lectures, training materials, videos, experts, which is really good. We actually wanted to connect different people with different backgrounds who want to work something on open data. So, for example, if you are a journalist and you're working in a media outlet and you want to create some data story, but you don't know who to approach, who can help you with that, you don't have data analysis skills, then you can look up in the hub, and there is a possibility that we can actually fund that if we think that's something which is which can be a good reuse example and good for the community. So it's good actually to have this kind of support and to see who are other people who can help you. And if you scan this QR code, you can visit the hub and you can see the content. And in here you can see what are actually those pieces of support which we wanted to have on the portal, on the hub. It's an expert support, educational resources, financial support, and networking. And I can say that Hub has been really good add-on for on the Open Data Portal, because Open Data Portal is more technical. It is the home for open data, but it doesn't provide really a nice user-friendly environment for a blog, for news, for materials. So we wanted to have something which is more user-friendly, more dynamic, and where we would put all the other resources. So those two are connected. So if you go to the portal, you can see how to go to the hub. So it's actually one package, but we just have it like this, and within two portals. That is all I wanted. I mean, I can go on and talk about this for hours, but this is something I selected to show you. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer, but I will now give floor to Flora, which already reminded me that I should finish. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sanya. Really, such an interesting presentation, and it's so nice to see the work that you have done for your community in terms of open data, and we can further discuss about it during the Q&A session. So now I will give the floor directly to Miroslav and Lucas, that they will give us more information about the best practices coming from Slovakia. So Miroslav, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the word. First of all, let me say hello from Slovakia, Bratislava. And I would like also to thank you to Data Europe Academy for inviting us for sharing our story. My presentation will be a little bit technical. Yes, I will be talking about dimensions, portal, and quality. So my agenda, as you can see here, consists of several topics, but in short, it could be named as from CCAN to DCAT with linked pipes based data.gov.cz, which is Czech Republic portals. Yeah, we reused Czech portals, as well as great linked pipes ETL, which has developed Charles University in Prague. And in the end of my presentation, I will talk a little bit about local data catalogs harvestation, because we didn't only implement DCAT into our national portal, but also several our Slovakian data providers also implement DCAT. Okay, so here you can see our former open data portal, CCAN based. Today, from the technical point of view, it's obsolete. However, the portal played a tremendously important role in transferring our post-communist country, Slovakia, into modern European open country. So we are really thankful that we have it. However, as I mentioned, today the technical part of the portal is obsolete. The biggest problem I see here, and I would like to talk about a little bit, is not precise semantics of metadata. So we have the problem that some of data providers catalogize their data sets, their metadata differently than others. So then it was not possible, for instance, to query those data. For instance, to be more concrete, instead of catalogizing new data sets, there were very often a case when the new data set was added only as a distribution. Yes, so that's a first, let's say, technical problem that we have. And the other that I would like to talk about a little bit is that the second portal or the philosophy on top of it was that data providers use this portal as a storage. Yes, so they just upload the new data set, and I think this is not, or we think it is not the best approach, because the much better approach is to provide open data through the APIs on the data provider side and just catalogize these APIs into central catalog. Yes. Okay, but there is a lot of to talk about, but since there is not much time, I will just talk about in brief. So only these two problems I would like to mention right now. So now you can see the former architecture that we had. I am now talking more about the automatic publishment of open data. Yes, so you can see on the right side there is data providers, and when they wanted to publish open data, they have to use SICAN API and store the metadata as well as data. That was the most often case. But also we have some better approaches. So data were stored in the publisher side, and only metadata were sent to central portal. So in this case, the agents of the communication were the data providers. The new architecture that you can see is in different scenario. So is opaque. So now the agent is our central portal data.slovensko.sk with the linked pipes ETL, which is RDF based ETL that is possible to harvest endpoints from the local from different data providers. You can see 3 scenarios that we support right now. The first most often scenario is that on the side of data provider, for each data set is created a metadata file with decade definition, and these all metadata files are harvested into central portal. So that is more often a scenario right now. And the second, I think the best one, is when the data provider is able to export all the metadata into some triple store, and then the central open data portal is able to query through this Sparkle endpoint and takes the metadata which is it interested in. The last one scenario is SICAN based API on the data provider side. We have still some data providers in Slovakia that use SICAN, for instance, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we were able to, or we are still able to support the harvesting the SICAN. However, we don't recommend to build new open data portals on the data providers with SICAN, but with DKIT. Okay, so when I was talking about DKIT a lot, of course, the necessary condition was to create our national DKIT AP profile. You can see here we have version 2.0.1. Actually, we created a DKIT AP SK1 like 7 years ago, but it has never been implemented. And in the start of this project, we create a new version like 2.0. And after a half a year of working in production, we updated a little bit into that one. The DKIT is very common in a European portal, so I'm not going to talk about it much, but what I would like to mention is that this new update of our DKIT IPSK profile, we added the blue one. The blue property in the dataset is štruktúra dátovej kocky. It means data cube structure. Yes, because we have lots of data publishers that publish statistical open data, and they are using already RDF data cube vocabulary for describing the metadata, because our central data office was helping them in the past how to create such a RDF cube based datasets. And on the right side of this screen, you can see how we are using lots of European authority tables like data team, frequency, dataset type, and of course it's very clear the semantics of the metadata, because it's explicitly said that time or geographical coverage are linked with dataset, not with distribution. So this is really important. And the other part of the diagram shows how we are also using a license European vocabulary for linking it with distribution. So this is our DKIT APSK. All right. This is my most favorite topic, and I would like to talk about this for hours. It's linked pipes ETL, RDF-based ETL that was developed in Charles University in Czech Republic, and it's a core of the new portal. It acts as a harvester, transformer, extractor, loader, everything you need. Yes. So here on the screen is just an excerpt of transformation of our former data.sk portal based on SICAN, when we simply transform the metadata to the DKIT. The harvester, the ETL, the link pipes ETL, it contains several pipelines that are run each night. Some of them will be finished or terminated, like those who harvest the former data.gov.sk, and others will be still running, like harvesting a local dataset. Because this is a really important thing, that not only central portal supports DKIT, but also data providers will implement the DKIT. Okay, so on the next slide here, you can see a portal, Data Slovensko SK. I'm not going to show many screenshots, just one of the portal. I will rather invite you to visit our data.slovensko.sk open data portal and play with it. We created it on behalf on analysis of many different European open data portals, especially those who support Sparkle endpoint as well, like for instance Spanish datos.gov.s open data portal, or German go.data, or Czech, or Netherlands. Yes, so the portal is quite simple, intuitive, and as I mentioned, the most important thing is the Sparkle endpoint. Yes, so it's now possible really to query the data, the metadata, and get what you need. Of course, since the transformation was quite recent, it will need some time to really set all properties correctly, because Seeken portal doesn't support many of such of new properties. So the effective querying, we need to wait a little bit for effective querying. The data providers should correct the metadata. However, the portal contains also implemented quality measurement of metadata. So this will help the metadata providers to correct the metadata. Okay, I am going to close to finish my presentation, but just I mentioned it already, but I would like to talk about it once again. So the data.apa is not implemented only in our central portal, but several data providers were able also implement it. For instance, like Ministry of Finance of Slovak Republic, or our Ministry of Investments, Regional Development and Informatization, as well as several municipalities, like you can see Zvolen, Levice, Trnava. They are already providing DKD catalogs, and it is now really easy to harvest them. So in the end, I would like to sum up the best practices that we learned and would like to recommend. Is that it is necessary to learn from masters, and in our case it was Czech Republic. Really, Czech Republic is advanced in the open data much more than our side. So we really reuse their open data portal, as well as the kernel, the heart of the portal, like link pipes ETL. So that was the first two practices. The third is share code during development. Our project, our open data portal, is one of the first projects in Slovakia that was shared on the GitHub in open source with EU PL license from the start. Yes, so we received several advices during the development, so this is really helpful. We are planning to also use advantages of great community open data, which is in Slovakia, in future development. The fourth practice we would like to recommend, or we learned from our Czech brothers, is to focus on catalogizing metadata, not storing data. Yes, because it is, from the long run, it's not feasible just to store data into portal, because actually the open data portal is not backup. It's not intended for backup, but rather really create a catalog that refers to all available open data stored on the data provider side through the APIs. And the fifth, be interoperable with EU and also national agencies. So that was all from my side. I will finish here and let the word to my colleague Lukáš.
Thank you for the word. My name is Lukáš Jankovič, and I work for Ministry of Investments, Regional Development, and Informatization of Slovak Republic. And I work, or my presentation will be focused most on impact dimension, but I will also briefly mention other activities that I think are important for our grow in ranking open data maturity. I want to thank European Data Portal for hosting this webinar and the opportunity to present Slovakia's improvement or best practices. So the outline of my presentation, I will start with key activities which we are doing in the last 2 years, which I think are important for Open Data Maturity Index. And then I will continue with impact activities and especially with impact methodology, and then impact creators, which we were able to identify. And I will end with best practices from which you can take something maybe. So the key activities which I think was important for the improving our ranking was that we set our action plan that was the set of goals or of things that we need to do to be better in Open Data Maturity Index, and not only in index, but to make open data community stronger and to be comparable with other countries. So that was in 2022. And then it was important that we cooperated with Open Government Partnership, Slovak contact point, and we implemented the impact activities in action plan, which is every 2 years. So it was even before the open data was present in action plan, but this time we focused specifically on impact. So this was the second. The third was that we continued, or not we, because the analysis on publication and usage of Nation Portal is made by the external office like OGP contact point. So it's every year, and it's important because it's focused on data quality, quantity, usage of portal, and it's important that it's not carried out by national data team, but by the outside expert. So the next activities was, as Miroslav mentioned, building a new portal, which was most intense from 2021. And also we started to do trainings for data stewards and public servants, and it was focused on basic topics or how to increase quality, how to assess impact or create impact. And it was good because it made also some discussion possible. So it was good for cooperation. As you can see from our ranking, we improved slightly in 2022 because that was the year when we set our action plan, but more rapidly in last year, because that was the year that most of our scheduled activities are complete. Of course, we have some activities scheduled for 2024, 25, and so on. Our impact activities was broad, and it was started that we want to create a methodology on open data impact, and we took inspiration from Czech methodology, and also used many useful sources from European Data Portal, analysis, and papers. And it was good for us because we made our approach, how we approach impact. The methodology was made in participation with data stewards and stakeholders and guests. So it was process, and it took some half year or year. And we also know that we will do a report on open data impact. We hope that it can be done every year, or maybe if not every 2 years. And the base for the report will be, of course, the methodology. So our impact methodology, we try to make it as simple as possible. So we are focusing on data, access to data, then use and reuse, and then the impact. Methodology is made to be transparent, so everyone can see what is what it consists of, and how the metrics are made. It also includes high-value data sets, so we will try to focus on use and reuse and impact of high-value data sets. We are focused on governmental level, not municipal, because we think that governmental level is more mature, and of course there are cities and other areas that have a portal, open data portal, and have data steward, but it's not so common. So we will start with government level, and we also will participate with municipal level when it's feasible and when it's possible. As you can see from weight of categories, the most weight is on use or reuse, because it's I think easiest to access, because impact is more complicated to access, especially when you try to create some metrics. And one last thing about methodology is that is not focused on data quality or publication of data in itself, because as I mentioned, we have analysis, which is some sort of external. So this complements with methodology. This slide is just brief examples what we will measure. So the methodology is use measurable metrics. In most cases, we have some scales. So, for example, number of portal users can grow on or decrease. But in some cases, we have some sort of yes or no. So, for example, on impact, was the research made or wasn't, or so on. So we, in the report, we will not put all the weight on the numbers and on the metrics, but try also to describe the situation as it is. So what are the challenges, what is bad, what is good, and so on. So we don't think that we can evaluate impact only via some numbers or metrics. We use different data sources. So it's some obvious, for example, portal analytics or local portals. We also use most requested datasets and APIs, which is some sort of questionnaire for the public. We use our use cases database, which will consist use cases on portal, but also the use cases we can find by Googling or by communicating with potential users. We also use dissertation thesis, which can use open data, a lot of questionnaires, because I think some data can be easy obtained by other way, and the product will be the report, which I mentioned already. Here on the slide, I mentioned some impact creators, which we identified via the process of creating methodology. So the first is a public transport application, which is made by enthusiasts in Slovak city Prešov. The city has about 100,000 residents, and this application is made by the open data which the city published. The second is Vostad, and it's a portal which tries to visualize and made the public procurement data more easily to use. And it is used very widely by NGOs in different analyses, and it has also many users, similar as the public transport app, which I didn't mention. That the impact is, I think, created because it has many users. And the open wood is the third example, and this is made by office, public office, and it's open API on wood production, transport, sales. And this is important because there is big discussion in Slovakia on using the wood if it's not harvested too much and so on. So it creates a very transparent way to see that data. The last is Atlas of Roma Communities, which is also created by Public Office, and it's good for us, for Slovakia, because it's a data source in principle on Roma minority and its living conditions. So it's very widely used on government level. It's also used when government decides where funds should go. So this is just examples we were able to identify, and we will work with them more to try to access their impact. And the last slide I have is best practices. So we try to learn from other countries. As you maybe know, the country questionnaires of Open Data Maturity Index are available to download at the Open Data Maturity webpage. So you can download the countries which are close to you or maybe are similar. So in our case, it's Czech Republic and Poland and Hungary and Austria. And this is useful because maybe you find out that they are doing the similar ways, the similar things you do, but you didn't mention it in questionnaire. So it can help you to make better answers to questions. Also, the trainings I mentioned, that's good, but that is good not only for improve knowledge of data stewards and civil servants, but is a good form of discussion and connection. And it also helps data stewards to focus on open data because they have a lot of tasks, and this is some sort of reminder of open data. So the communication, we use methodology portal. We have open data portal and methodology portal, where is a lot of information, which is useful for open data stewards. Also, the important thing I think in Slovakia is the creating common commitments. So it's the OGP, Open Government Partnership, and also the communication and cooperation with civil society. And last thing I can recommend is creating your own methodology, and if it's possible, do the participatory process with all stakeholders. So this is all for me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Lucas and Miroslav, for the presentation. It was very nice also to see the more technical updates from your side. I see it's time to move to our Q&A session. We have quite a few questions, Martin, for everyone in this group. So I will immediately give the floor to you, Martin, and we will try our best to address all of these questions.
Yes, thank you. And I think the idea of the session is to be a bit of a this segment is to be a bit of a panel Q&A. The first topic that is coming up in the questions that I see is around the impact dimension and specifically measuring reuse. I then first want to clarify a bit on how ODM measures impact. Is that in the questionnaire, it asks for mainly lots of examples of reuse cases as instances of reuse, but this is kind of an output measure. It's the number of reuse cases, but it does not go further in saying what impact that a certain reuse case created in society. What the ODM questionnaire does ask is if the countries have done an impact assessment and have some kind of quantification on what those use cases realized. So then following from that, there was a question about how does countries monitor reuse? Well, one way is by having an impact assessment on a country level that is implemented. And I think the example from Slovakia is really good because a public administration has access to all of its branches and can go quite deep there. But we also see in the ODM is that countries use their portal to measure reuse. They might have a use case observatory or a place to showcase reuse case examples, and also analyzing portal statistics as an indication of reuse. But what I wanted to ask to the speakers, starting with Sanja from Serbia, you mentioned that you are in Belgrade and there are people using open data throughout the country, students and so on. You had the Citizen Science Initiative. And these are ways to also measure reuse or initiate reuse to promote reuse. And I was wondering, how do you measure the success of such events? And by measuring the success, kind of measuring reuse?
Yes, of course. I mean, of course, by traditional evaluation forms after the event. But we also because we are always present at all events, even those which are organized by the community. One of our representatives always tries to engage later on in discussion with the participants and see if this has been useful for them. I mean, it's I think that community is like really vibrant, and if they want to say that they, especially if they're not satisfied with some part of the event or something which they perceive could be done better, they always approach to us because they feel like they can talk. I mean, especially since they're with UNDP on board, it kind of seems more open. I mean, I don't want to say that public administration is closed, but it seems harder to approach a civil servant than to approach somebody in UNDP working on the project. So I think that it creates a really good connection and makes also Office for IT and e-government more approachable. So we always try to engage and talk to them and evaluate everything we do, and we keep our lessons learned from every event and every activity. So we follow that really.
And then slightly similar question to maybe Lucas. You have a use case database, and the number of use cases in that database is a measure of reuse as a step towards the ultimate impact. I was wondering, how do you compile that database?
We compiled it mostly. We know who is using open data because in Slovakia it's not so many people or so many organizations. So it is really easy to identify. And also we use, for example, I mentioned civic society. So for example, one of civic society organizations have some sort of forum or discussion where many technical people post their products they made with open data and also ask for data. So this is our way. And by the portal, when it will be finished, the new portal, there will be possibility to submit use case. We try to use it to make it as easy to use because on all the portal it was very different. You need to use your ID and some sort of it. So and we also will be organizing workshops and trainings, and this is not only for data stewards but also for people from open data community. So these are the sources.
And to follow up from that, once you have these reuse case examples, is there any mechanism or calculation that you do to estimate the broader reach or impact of the reuse case? So say if it's a reuse case that's related to the economy, you can say how many reuse cases there are related to the economy and what data sets they use. But ultimately, what would be really interesting is to know how that reuse case affects like GDP or some macro indicator. Does the impact methodology make any such translations to more like longer term metrics?
No, this is we don't use metrics for calculation impact or GDP or economy. In this methodology, we will do interviews with these use case creators or impact creators, so we can ask them if how many users they have, and if it's some company, for example, Slovakia is Finstat, you can check how many tax they pay or how many employees they have. But this is this evaluation on GDP or economy. I think we will do it. Maybe some consultation company like KPMG or these companies are doing these things.
Okay, really interesting. Then I had a question for Sanya. What you actually mentioned during your presentation is that quality is something that you want to also work on, and I was triggered and was wondering how you plan to focus on quality. And but before that, if you also have a way you collect reuse cases, feel free to mention. But my main question is about the quality.
Okay, yeah. Well, first on the quality, it's always been a little bit of challenge because at the very beginning, when the initiative started, the institutions were very eager to display their open data on the open data portal, and they weren't really focused on quality because it was important for them to kind of be the first institution in order to brag about that and to show that they're in. But later on, we started to focus more on that, and we actually introduced a tool within the Open Data Portal, which once you are in the process of adding a data set, you need to access your data set against the quality criteria. But we also want in the future to publish one guide, especially for the data stewards, which will help them to improve their data quality and to focus more on metadata, licensing, and standards. For some data sets, we actually established standards. Of course, for some, we use internationally recognized standards. For example, we were in the process of negotiation with the Public Procurement Office for the OCDS. So we just want to help them to use already established standards because it's much easier for everybody and especially for users. But I think this guide will help them improve a lot. And of course, capacity building is always one of the traditional methods for that. And on the reuse examples, users can add reuse examples on the Open Data Portal. And especially if we, as the project and the Office for IT, if we fund that reuse example, then it's mandatory for them, of course, to publish it and to display that for the community. But we also, from time to time, have a campaign for open data users to tell us if they used some open data set and if they have produced something interesting. Because I mean, one can use data set and we wouldn't even know if it's being downloaded or used, especially if it's using API. So it's kind of hard to track if somebody doesn't really want to be found. So we just, try to stimulate them to talk about these reuse examples. And I mean, as Lucas already said, it's a small country, and it's really somewhat it's easy to track, especially individuals or institutions or organizations which are working a lot with open data, and those are usually the one who tend to engage more and produce more use cases. So we always try to be present and not just sit in our offices. We always want to go to the events, go to the community, talk with people, so see who is doing what, and see if we can create some kind of synergy in these projects.
And then do we have time for one more question? Yeah, because I think linking to that is this question that was also asked in the chat about convincing data providers to change their approach, or how the EU could help publish open data sets for member states in terms of the providers. Maybe Miroslav, do you have a view of this in terms of interacting with the data providers? You've got undergone quite a large transformation with the portal.
Okay, so thank you. I would like to open the discussion or call for help in a thing that we have, let's say, good data providers that are aware what the open data are, and that they are publish them and everything is okay. But still, we have lots of data agencies that I would say still don't get it, still don't get the idea that information systems, they are managing, were created by the money of taxpayers, and they have to publish those data, of course, if those are not personal and something like that. But we are arguing with lots of data agencies sometimes to publish the data, and I would be very happy if European Union pushed those agencies and to publish the data. Yes, so I don't. Okay.
I think that's all we have time for in terms of questions. I guess to summarize, the one point that we couldn't mention is that there was a lot of interest in your collaboration with France and also to Czechia. So I think the community would really benefit from benefited from the sharing, and would like to know more, maybe on your websites or a blog about how you collaborated with these other countries to improve yourself and follow them. And that concludes the Q&A, and I give back to Flora.
Thank you so much to all of you. Really appreciate all your effort and the work that you are doing from your side, and also a shout out to all the countries that contributed to the ODM report in 2023. And we will wrap up this session in a few minutes, but before you exit this webinar, please make sure to provide your feedback. You can scan the QR code that you see right now in your screen, or you can click on the link that my colleagues will share with you in the chat. I will move very quickly to the next slide, because as you already know, if you're familiar with our webinars, we are continuously working on providing you with more content. So our next webinar will take place on 1st of March. It will be titled as New Business Models for Data-Driven Public Services, and it will be a different webinar, an interactive webinar that we will also very much appreciate to fill in a survey before registering to this. So keep in mind, and to know more about our next events and what we're working on, please sign up for our data.europa.eu newsletter, follow us on the social media, and first and foremost, also visit our data.europa.eu platform. So I will close this session by leaving this page here, thanking once again Martin, Miroslav, Lucas, and Sanya, really thank you so much. And thanks to also the team behind data.europa.eu for making the ODM report 2023 happening. And to all of you that you contributed with your questions. And next, we will see you all in our next webinar. So thank you.